who is the CEO of Africa Policy Institute. Earlier, we were joined by also Dr. Hassan Kanenje, who is the director of the Horn Institute. Professor Kagonja, before we go to Rwanda, I think I'd seen something here sent by Rastas Mwencha. We were discussing him as part of this panel. It's been a while since he was here. And he says, good morning. He says, here are some of the pertinent facts about AU. First, the 5 regions of AU do not necessarily correspond with RECs, e.g. EAC, SADC, etc., etc. Also, the AU Eastern African has 14 countries.
Yes.
Stretching from Sudan to Madagascar, including Ethiopia, Djibouti, DRC, and Burundi, are in Central Africa. 2, rotation of chair of AUC is a new phenomenon, right? It was not there before. Thirdly, Amina stood for AUC position for as many times as my term was ending, as his term was ending as a deputy chair. Electoral law for AUC position prohibit chair and deputy coming from the same region.
Yes.
Right? Thirdly, when I stood for DCP in 2008, that is the deputy chair position in 2008, Kenya fielded 2 other candidates, right? So he says otherwise...
So he did not have Kenya support.
We did not have?
He did not have Kenya support. If Kenya fielded 2...
Yes. I think he had the support then. If
not
2 other...
not from Kenya.
Not from Kenya?
No, I mean, if Kenya had 3 candidates,
so you
then
had
he could
3
not
other...
have been the only one.
Yeah, that is Ambassador Erastus Mwencha. We missed you on the show. You should come back.
The ambassador is right.
He's right.
But yeah, he's very right. He was the African Union when Kenya was campaigning for Amina. There are other candidates, as it has been said, who are Kenyans. So even in this case, with the rider being the state-sponsored candidate, there will be other non-state-sponsored candidates, and then you accept them.
Yeah,
like
you wanted to.
Yeah, I might be one of them because I qualify. You know, I have a PhD in the things. In fact, I have a master's, and PhD is said to be an added advantage. So I have it, or I have experience in government, which is what they would ask for. I'm still in public space, so why can't I put my name? And then he is qualified as well, because the social sciences they're asking for is there. Professor Macharia is also very qualified. Yeah. So we are not trying to make a joke out of something serious. I think what the African Union have looked for, and that perhaps Ambassador Mwencha would confirm, is the whole question of peerage. Peerage. Yeah, peerage is the big issue because the heads of state want to confide. And they want to confide in people they can trust, that they belong to their circle, and that they know. And 2, they can take a call and call their home. So peerage is a big issue. And that's what is common. Alpha Condé was a president. Xi Jinping was essentially from the royal family of
He's a prince.
Yeah, he's a prince in
China.
Not China. It is in
the pink guy.
Yes, the pink guy. Yes. Then Dlamini Zuma was the wife of Jacob Zuma, who was in the office when she was getting to this office. They have children together, so you don't need to question whether she belongs or she doesn't belong. and Muhammad, Musa Faki also comes from the Raja royal family in Chad. So to say, that's why he was said to be exiled, so that he does not challenge the son of Idris Deby, I mean the president of the country. So in short, the facts that Ambassador Mwencha has put on the table are correct. Yes, he was leaving that time, but as the heads of state were voting, he was still the deputy. But and Kenya did not think of doing behind the curtains negotiations with Mwencha to resign.
Channels, yes.
Yeah, to resign before, maybe a year or a month before, and then offer him something so that by the time he's there, that position is vacant for the region and for the country. And now, as the facts are still coming in, as Odinga is campaigning to be the chair and sponsored by the Kenyan state, the deputy chair of the African Union Commission is Rwandese. Is a Rwandese lady, right? Who is overqualified even for the chair, but then she's there. So, and as Mwencha has put it, you cannot have the chair and the deputy coming from the same region.
So Rwanda automatically
is there.
Out of the equation.
Yeah, so you have to negotiate with Rwanda to call back, and you cannot call back because she was hired by the African Union. Mwencha himself was not state-sponsored by the time he went to the AU. He got a job by himself.
He went in his own capacity.
He had a clout. He had a clout before. You remember he was the Secretary General of COMESA. Lived in Zambia and for very long. He had his own credentials that propelled him into the AU, and I think he could have won with or without state support. But it was politically correct to support Ambassador Mwencha because he had the credentials, he had the peerage after being the Secretary of Commerce and having the ear of the elites, the political elites who make decisions. So he was probably even more than qualified for the vice chair. At some point, I thought he needed to go to the chair. And then he has grown through the bureaucracy of these organizations. He is not a politician, as it were. So he is an office person who can sit and work. That is comparatively now to a former prime minister, a politician by excellence, par excellence.
Why is Ambassador Erastus Mwencha's very apolitical? Or maybe this is just a preference and choice. Don't you think he can actually consider running for some of his...
Maybe he's wise.
Sorry?
No, he's wise.
He's wise.
Yes, he's wise. There are some things you don't get into.
There's some things that... But we need leaders like him who have credibility, they have the integrity, they're focused, they're sober, to come and pick up this positions
he speaks. What he doesn't like doing is getting messed up in partisan politics. He does, and he's very subtle in his political comments. And but you remember also he's a chair of other things in the country. You remember he's the only African in the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. He's a member. He's in the executive, the board of the Belt and Road Initiative of China. He's also a very high-profile person in the banking industry here in terms of leadership. And
the Africa Capacity Building Foundation as well?
Capacity Building Foundation. And when you have that kind of gravitas, sometimes you've got to just, scale back in terms of what you can say and what you can't say. But that does not inhibit him from speaking outrightly. What he has actually not told us, and I thought he could write to you this, is about the question of age in the AU Commission. The chair of the African Union, age is not a factor.
The chair.
Because this is a one-off job where you go to chair the summit of head of state twice a year when you are appointed, and when the second one when you are leaving outside Addis Ababa. And therefore that age is not a factor. But the age is a factor when it comes to being a member of the executive, meaning the equivalent of a minister in the AU lingo. What about the chief executive? Is age a factor? Or can you just, are we about to see the president of Cameroon, Paul Biya, who is, I'm told, I don't want to be hard on camera, I know I'm being faced, that as the old men, the male side of the gender, it reaches a certain age, and we have to agree that you have to wear diapers. Yeah, because it's biology. So you really don't want that kind of thing in the African Union. Age must be put as a factor.
All right. Maybe Ambassador will let us know.
Maybe as he lets us know,
is age really a factor?
He seems to be wise and very discernible. He realized too early in life that yes, politics is important, but it's also dirty to some extent. So the moment you get in there and get a little bit dirty, then there are areas that you cannot actually navigate through, particularly in the bureaucracies of some of these big organizations. Yeah. And he has faithfully kept that, and I admire him for that.
All right.
And then he's also an embodiment that you don't need too much of this hard politics of a country to get into this top organizational management of some of the continental organizations that we have.
Thank you. Right.
In fact, he became the vice chair of AU, and very many people cannot pick him out in a street in Nairobi. And unlike probably what Professor Macharia was saying, the liking of publicity, he doesn't like it too much.
All right. Yeah. Right, thank you.
There's somebody who has written to us here. This is David Masanga.
David Masanga, the one Masanga.
Yes,
yeah.
He has just woken.
Dr. Masanga.
Yes, Dr. Masanga has just woken up in Ghana. He's in Accra, Ghana.
Yes.
Okay.
And he says that he's watching us, and that he says, again, you are right on that. Two candidates cannot come from the Eastern African region. Rwanda is in Eastern wing of Africa. Mwenya presence killed Amina Mohammed's election on the second balloting. I was there.
He was there.
Yes, this is Matanga saying it. He was there.
Maybe it was not really also forthright, or maybe, what to say, we did not really acted in the wisest of fashion to present Amina, while we still had Ambassador Ressa
there.
We blotted the...
We did not do our homework well.
We didn't do our homework well. We were not very strategic.
Yes.
Yeah.
The strategic thing would have to speak to Mwencha, because he was a Kenyan, and he knew he would leave by the next summit, that he knew, and then talk him into something else, and then he resigns. And therefore that position is vacant by the time the heads of state convene in Addis Ababa. But by the time they convened, yes, Mwencha was leaving office, but as he was leaving office, Amina was vying for the same office, and they wondered whether there was a Kenyan entitlement that you are now in the deputy chair, and you want your chair, and you want it when the Constitution of the African Union does not allow the chair and the deputy chair to come from the same region. Why can't they come from the same country?
Hubris.
We have that kind of history in Kenya, where sometimes the right hand doesn't know or doesn't want to know what the left is doing.
Yes.
I ran for the United Nations World Tourism Organization regional vice president for Africa when the General Assembly was in Zambia, Zimbabwe in 2013. And I had government support.
So you fought?
Yeah, we were campaigning. Yes, I had government support, and I won because of that. But when we got to Zimbabwe, we got many other Kenyans there wanting to run. We had to sit with them and literally say, no, we are here as a government at the time. And I remember at the time I was the principal of Utali, and I had a lot of support from our Ministry of Tourism and Foreign Affairs.
They were spoiling for you?
Yes, it looked like, but we were able to convince that I was the only one.
Okay.
And I won. So
right.
There is always a tendency of the left not knowing or not wanting to know what the right is doing, and also having to establish what we can call the national interests for the sake of the nation. We are a bit inward looking in a number of things. It is what is in there for me and myself.
Right, thank you.
There was time, and I think Peter can remember, when the ambassador and the deputy ambassador, Kenyan ambassador and deputy ambassador to a particular country, were saying opposite things.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the ambassador says this, and then the deputy says, no, that's not the official position. And it was not one country, but many places.
Yep.
And it was terrible. So I don't know whether we still have the same problem now.
We have it when you have so many political appointees as ambassadors who have no clue. And I know we have the Foreign Service Academy where we're supposed to socialize them to, but the time is too short. Somebody need to go in for courses, detailed to know what your station entails. And so what has happened, that most deputy ambassadors, what they call the charge or minister councillor, are usually career diplomats. So they know the nuts and bolts of diplomacy. And then you have their bosses who are political. I remember one was a headmaster, I think it's one of the European countries, capitals. He was a former headmaster who had performed very well in a rural place. And was honored by one of the former presidents as ambassador to a major capital, basically a UN headquarter as well. And you brought this bowl of lemon and water because you are supposed to be eating lamb. And in etiquette,
wash your hands.
You are supposed not to wash your hands, but to wash your fingers so that you can hold the ribs. But when it was brought, he just took pepper and salt and then put both of them because he thought it was soup. And as protocol require, we all went to take this soup. We know this is lemon. It's a finger bowl, but for courtesy's sake, we took our spoons and did it and then turned it. Because as long as you have a bite, you can return it. Until now, the new person came and whispered to the ambassador, told him that was supposed to be a finger bowl. But already we had embarrassed ourselves to foreign dignitaries. So we really don't take our work seriously. Yeah. Because the work of an embassy or ambassador is basically to reflect what we're doing. But now we send the wrong signals and pictures to the people out there.
Fantastic, fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's head over to Rwanda. We indicated that earlier before we took a short break, where Rwanda has asked the African Union not to support troops from Southern African countries deployed to fight armed groups in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo, claiming the force will exacerbate the conflict. Rwandan Foreign Minister Vincent Biruta said in a letter to the chairperson of the AU Commission, Musa Faki Mohammed, that Rwanda learned with great concern about a scheduled meeting of the AU Peace and Security Council, part of whose objectives is to endorse the deployment of the South African Development Community Mission in DRC. Biruta accused the force of fighting alongside the DRC army and other coalition armed groups, which include Rwandan rebels of the Democratic Forces for the Liberation of Rwanda, that is Sami DRC, as an offensive force in coalition with these elements cannot substitute for a political process that has been blocked by government of DRC. Therefore, the African Union is urged not to authorize or fund Sami DRC. This is what he said. And let's talk about this latest development so far. There has been gesture everywhere from here, sending troops to DRC. Now we have Rwanda saying no, we don't want your help.
Well, see, that area is complex. So what do the presidents want, like Tshisekedi, and what is available? Tshisekedi wants his problem solved by other people, like the M23, and contain it. If it cannot be done, then the forces that come in are no good. And so that's the issue that needs to be dealt with. For Tshisekedi to say, bring people here to deal with M23, that's the main thing. If they don't, then they are not good. And you look as if South Africa is very interested in helping Tshisekedi in that regard. Now, Rwanda and Congo don't agree too much on those things. So you have Rwanda saying, what are you doing? Because the M23 appears to be some sort of ally, safety valve for Rwanda, because of going back to the genocide in 1994. There's supposedly people who ran into Congo and have been plotting to go back. And so you have now these militia, the M23, which seems to be helping Rwanda not to be attacked by Those who ran away the genocide, yes. So there is a perceptual difference as to what the real interests are. For one Tshisekedi in Congo, what he wants, and for Rwanda, what Kagame wants. And both of them are claiming security in that zone. The Eastern Congo is the security zone. So who can best offer that assistance of dealing with the instability? And both sides seem to make a very good case about their own security, arising from the commotions that may be related to the genocide. And that we have that problem. Kenya took some trips there, which was really an Uhuru and Tshisekedi deal. That's what it was. And for some reason, it didn't work out very well. So we were kicked out. And they saw him come in South Africa, and the hope was that they are going to do a better job of helping Tshisekedi. And I don't know whether they are doing it, but Rwanda is not amused by that. So I think that's what's going on in the whole thing.
But is there no really consultation before you think about sending these troops? When we make this decision, then we still have countries saying, hey, hold on, hold your horses, we don't need your help. I thought there is sort of a bilateral agreement, or what is the nature of?
No, we have had difficulties in Congo because of the size and political dynamics of that country. There are a number of countries are very close to Congo from where they are coming, and therefore we have vested interests that themselves are in conflict. Take, for example, Angola is a key player in the Congo because one of its territory, Kabida, is on the mouth of River Congo. And from the eastern side, and of course Savimbi, the former rebel, was getting his supplies and so on from Congo. And as a result, allegedly from Mobutu those days. And as a result, Angola got invested in Congo's politics. And it has literally trained all the soldiers for the Congo under Kabila, particularly Joseph Kabila and so on. And it is not a surprise that Congo was the subject of what you call the First World War of Africa. The First World War of Africa involved almost all the countries in the neighboring. Uganda and Rwanda on this side, Zambia and Zimbabwe, the South Africans were there, and Angola was on the other side. Almost 9 countries were involved in that war in 1997 to 2000. And as a result, we have now emerged with what you can define as a bifurcated intervention process. SADC, because the Congo is a member of SADC, thinks that it has the right to intervene in the Congo. And for SADC, when they are sending out troops there, it's not necessary, if it's approved by SADC, it's a force enforcement. In other words, it enforces, and it is not a peacekeeping force. It is to enforce a certain way of getting things done. The East African community follows the doctrine of peacekeepers. You are neutral vis-a-vis the fighting forces. For the SADC, they take side and they say this is the force we're fighting, and that's why there's no love lost between Kagame and South Africa, because the first intervention, which is about 3 or 4 years ago, they came in with a brigade that was fighting alongside the United Nations forces, but for it was out for the fight. And they're the ones that decimated the M23. Basically literally fighting against Rwanda. And Kagame cried out about that. Now, the East African force was too timid for Congo. And Congo basically felt that the East African community is failing them because these forces are going on rampage. Are just quiet there as these others are going on rampage. So why are you here? So that is why Felix, the president of Congo, felt that the East African Brigade led by Kenya was basically a good for nothing. And then he went to the SADC and they endorsed a force, and that this is what has come. That's where now Kagame is saying No, we don't endorse. South Africa has about almost 3,000 troops now, and they are adding. Tanzania has actually in the past given its troops.
Yes.
Although it is in East Africa. Burundi has given its troops to this force. And as a result, what we are likely to see is another fracturing. Basically a military confrontation between, quote-unquote, SADC and the East African community. Because the East African community troops, officially, I don't think they are pulled out. And
they are winding down.
They are supposed to be winding down, but they are still there. And here is SADC has brought its own troops that have clear indication to deal with M23. And Rwanda is itself supporting M23 unofficially. It's not official, but they are doing it unofficially. Yeah.
All right.
But you know there is a rivalry
There's a rivalry
between Kenya and South Africa. It's not new.
Yep.
It's been there for a long time. Kenya is the dominant country in Eastern Africa, and South Africa is the dominant country in Southern Africa. Both of them claiming to be pivotal. And which one is more pivotal than the other? And that is a rivalry that is subtle. And part of that is playing itself now in the Congo. Kenya failed. Can South Africa succeed? Where Kenya failed. And they seem to be doing very well, eh? Even when we help the South Sudanese to get peace, who came thereafter and looked as if they are taking over?
South Africa.
Yeah. So there is a subtle
rivalry that...
rivalries, yes. And both of them have something in common. They were both settler colonies.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's the same thing with West Africa. Nigeria, the dominance, they fight over it, mainly, occasionally with Ghana and all those.
But largely with France.
Yeah, largely with France. You know, if Somalia has been the sick man of Eastern Africa and the Horn, the Democratic Republic of Congo has actually those credentials, the sick man of the Great Lakes and Central Africa. And this is because of very complex combination of regional geopolitics, international interests, and leadership idiosyncrasies, the selfish interests of various leaders. I think in the case of Kagame, falls under the last. You know, an unstable DRC, chaotic DRC, particularly in the part where the M23 is operating, means a stable and peaceful Rwanda to Kagame. And it gives him a justification to continue being the strongman of Rwanda, because there is this external enemy that he always points to. And the current president of DRC, Tshisekedi, has become a crybaby, you know, to SADC. He did it to the East African community. Kenya and Uhuru did not deliver what he was looking for. And he turned to the 16 countries of SADC to see whether they deliver. But Rwanda cannot support that because a peaceful and a stable DRC doesn't work very well with the situation in Rwanda and the survival of Kagame. So it's very understandable where Kagame is coming from, in my view. Yeah.
Right. Let's look at finally what is happening in the U.S. elections, where President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump swept to victory in statewide nominating contest across the country on Tuesday, setting up a historic rematch in November's general election despite low approval ratings for both candidates. Trump won the Republican votes in a dozen states, including delegates reached California and Texas, brushing aside former UN Ambassador Nikki Haley, his lone remaining rival.
There's never been anything like what's happening to our country. Today it was announced that 325,000 people were flown in from parts unknown. Migrants were flown in airplane, not going through borders, not going through that great Texas barrier that I was with the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott, the other day, and we were looking at the job they're doing. But in the meantime, they're pouring into California and they're pouring into Arizona because those governors aren't doing anything. They're doing nothing. We're going to straighten it out. We're going to close our borders. We're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to get the inflation down. And we are going to make our country greater than ever before.
Fair competition is the key to my economic vision. To build an economy from the middle out and the bottom up, not the top down. And it's working. Wages are up more than prices. Unemployment has reached historic lows.
Of course, looking at the Wall Street Journal yesterday, Supreme Court keeps Trump on the ballot. Justices find states can't bar GOP frontrunner over his role in the Capitol attack. The Supreme Court ruled unanimously on Monday that states lack the power to reject presidential candidates on the grounds they engaged in rebellion or insurrection against the U.S., a decision that restored former President Donald Trump's name to Colorado's ballot and ended similar challenges to his candidacy elsewhere. The unsigned opinion puts the rest of a series of state-level claims that Trump, the frontrunner for the Republican nomination, isn't eligible to be president a second time under a long dormant constitutional provision barring former officials who engaged in insurrection or rebellion from holding office again. The Constitution, it says here, makes Congress rather than the states responsible for enforcing Section 3 against federal office holders and candidates, the court said, referring to the disqualification provision, which is part of the 14th Amendment. So he's in the running, guys. Peter Kagwanja. Right? There are bugbears and fears. People were saying, oh, the court might bar him, but now that decision has been settled.
I think
and he's still winning, as we just saw with the latest
earlier I predicted that Donald Trump was going to win. And I did twice in 2 articles. And some of my colleagues were very bitter that I did that. I was not electing Trump. I was simply indicating that he knows how to play American politics and is going to win, not because we want, but because he is doing it the American way and the way they like it done. And therefore, he won that election fair and square. And in this one coming, he's winning fair and square. He's winning. There is no stopping him. And even international forces are rallying behind him because it appears like it was more peaceful when he was in office than when either Obama or later on Joe Biden were in office. Libya was run down and destroyed under Obama. Now Ukraine and others are the way the war is going on. It's going because under the watch of Obama's successor, and therefore there is a clear dichotomy between the American interests and the world interests, and they are not one. We are talking about a multipolar world, and in a multipolar world, it is the aggregate total of what the rest of the world think is going to make the world stable. And Donald Trump doesn't seem to disturb the world order. Because he's concerned, he's an isolationist. He's just concerned about the problems of America. Other people pouring into America, you could listen to his speech. Immigrants pouring into America, about jobs, America losing jobs. America is a classic, isolationist. And isolationists don't affect the rest of the world. In fact, they give the world a breathing space. Now, so Donald Trump, I dare say, is coming back. And even by these trials have made him a victim. And people like voting in victims. Victimhood is one of the factors for being elected. If you are not persecuted, people don't care about you. We elected here Jomo Kenyatta because he was persecuted by the British. The last time we elected Ruto because he was being persecuted by the previous administration. Elections and victimhoods, are like Siamese twins in terms of electability of the candidate. So I am saying Donald Trump is coming back.
All right. I need to take a short break. When we circle back, we shall continue with the programs so that we can delve deeper